Good morning, good morning, good morning. Sorry I am late. Oh, and I forgot lipstick. We cannot do this without lipstick. Mary Kay lipstick. There we go. That's better. All right. So, sorry I am late. Time got away from me. The pollen count around here is incredibly high. And good morning, Tammy. Welcome. You're the first one popping on today. Hello, hello. So, pollen count is high. My head feels like a gigantic cotton ball. Good morning, Joe Neal. So, time just got away from me this morning. So, here we are late, but time is irrelevant anyway, correct? So we have a cool card today, and then I have a little concept I want to share with you all from the book I'm reading, The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama. Good morning, Janine. Welcome, welcome. There's a part in there that's she's talking about how she was parented and how specifically her mother had been parented and things she gleaned and then passed on to her daughters also. So interesting stuff. So I just wanted to share that also in a minute. Good morning, Peggy. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. Glad everybody's rolling in. They find me. Yeah, just couldn't get going today. Too much congestion in the head. So threw off the timeline a bit. So let's breathe because it's so relevant to this card. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And I found myself breathing very deeply and easily yesterday. I took time for myself and went and sat in the park for about an hour and a half, just journaling. I had gone for a little drive, went and sat in the park and journaled. Good morning, Abigail. Glad you are here. Welcome, welcome. And that was just so lovely. Just so lovely. So I hope you take some time for you today. Right now here it's a brisk 55 degrees, which is lovely, lovely, lovely. I'm much more a fan of this kind of weather than 90 degrees. So we're going back to 90 shortly, but I will enjoy this respite. Priestess of Light deck, Sandra Ann Taylor and Kimberly Weber. And for those of you who have the card deck, it is card number 10 on page 46, Sacred Breath and Sound. Sacred Breath and Sound. And the words that go along with that are life force and communication. Do we not need this right now, right here, right now? Yes, 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 yes. So, and I dressed to match the card. Kind of glad about that. So I have a coffee date with a friend of mine, Harriet, this morning at 9. So I'm looking forward to that. Just connecting with people. And someone who I rarely get to see, and I saw her recently for lunch, like maybe 2 weeks ago, contacted me and said, hey, can you do coffee on Friday? And I'm like, rock on, let's do coffee on Friday. So talking to people. Sacred breath and sound. Let's take another breath just to honor that. This priestess of the breath of life brings the light of the dolphin to you. This important totem has long been a symbol of the life force embodied in breath, movement, and sound. So just think about that for a second. How are you doing on breathing? Consciously, deeply, luxuriously. Breathing. Movement. How are you doing on movement? Good morning, Gwen. Glad you're here. I personally am not doing as well on movement as I had been in the past. Time to rectify that situation. And sound. Sound. My yoga instructor, Bobby, who's often on here, frequently laments how many women of a certain age are loath to make a sound. She gets us making all kinds of sounds. We do all kinds of this kind of stuff and roaring like a lion and making ahs and ohs and ums and whatever else. And she's oftentimes struck by the women who struggle to make sound. Like they've been so quieted throughout their life that they struggle to make sound. So we're going to make sound. This card is telling you to bring the dolphin's easy flowing pattern to the breath of your life force at this time. So think about that. Do you feel an easygoing sense right now? Most of it are not, given all the planets that are retrograde, all the stuff that's going on in our environment. So breathe. Good morning, Carolyn. Enjoy the breath with us. Healing is available to you now on both the physical and personal levels. Deep breathing can relieve stress, initiate and accelerate healing, and raise the resonant vibration of your ki or life force. So if there's a physical issue or personal pattern you want to resolve, if there's anything going on that you want to see some movement in, add the breath. Consciously add the breath. In fact, I'll share one with you. When I was back in training for Psych K, it was an advanced training, and the instructor was working with a woman who had a tremendous trauma history. So she's on the massage table, and he's working with her and her breath, and she's stuck. She ain't going nowhere. So he walks over to me and he says, can you just stand off at a distance and breathe deeply? Just consciously breathe as if you're breathing her breath. It took maybe 2 minutes, and she began to move again. She began to breathe. She began to engage with the process and move through some really heavy stuff. The healing power of the breath. The healing power of the breath. So if there's a physical issue or personal pattern you want to resolve, spend some time in deep breathing and meditation, and let yourself feel the fluid, peaceful influence it brings to your body and life. Good morning, Mara, another person who likes to breathe. Nice deep breaths. Another sacred energy heralded by this card is the resonance of sound. Dolphins have a special way of communicating, sending out clicks and responding to the reverberations. This card is calling your attention to how you communicate with yourself and others. Are you fully engaged? Are you speaking your truth, kindly and lovingly, but are you speaking your truth? Are you putting your breath into your communications? The aqua blue colors on the card reinforce the importance of this message, vibrating with the energy of the fifth or throat chakra. So, just for a second, we're going to stop. Rub your hands together. I want you to place them on your throat. And for those of you who have trauma histories, if this feels too confining, just point at the throat. Good morning, Judy. Haven't seen you in a while. Glad you're here. We're just sending energy to the throat chakra. And if you're comfortable enough to do this, note the word enough, open your mouth. Ah. Let sound come out. Ah. Make it as loud as you want. Whatever. My dad's still sleeping, so I'm going to be kind of quiet. But allow the sound. Allow the sound. Hum. Hum today. As you're going about your business, as you're doing your stuff, as you're riding around in the car. Hum. See what comes up. But sound. Sound, sound, sound. All right, let's see what else it tells us. There's our card again. It's your soul's directive to honor your self-expression. That's beautiful, isn't it? Let me say it again. It is your soul's directive to honor your self-expression. If you find it difficult to speak up, start by venting your difficult feelings in your journal. And I know over the many years that I did trauma work, many people were not comfortable committing their thoughts to words on a page that someone could find. So make a ceremony out of it. Commit the words to the page and then burn the pages. Rip them up, shred them, whatever you want to do. But sometimes making them tangible, making them concrete on the page is so helpful. So helpful. Even if you don't want to leave them hanging around, that is fine. This healing process leads to a greater courage of expression in the future. It's time to speak up. It's time to say, this isn't okay with me, or I'm not down with that. That doesn't work for me. It's time to share your feelings, voice your requests. Doesn't matter whether or not someone responds to them the way you'd like. You merely voicing them is a huge first step, all right? And honor your right to speak out. Take a deep breath and practice communicating openly with others. The resonance of your breath and sound will soon move your life forward with the freedom, fluidity, and sparkling joy of the dolphin's magical energy. The affirmation is, I breathe deeply and express myself. My sound and my breath are sacred to me. My sound and my breath are sacred to me. Nice deep breath in on that. And exhale loudly. Make sure you can hear it. Breathe in. Really hear it. Breathe in. Thank you, Cindy, for posting our affirmation. And now I want to share this little part in the book. So basically what led up to the part I'm going to read to you is she's talking about her mom. And I think her mom was one of 11 children. And her grandmother led with an iron fist. So those children were not allowed to get out of line at all. With a whole bunch of kids, you kind of got it. Maybe it was 6. I don't know. Anyway, it was a lot of kids. And so there was this glass table, a coffee table. None of them were allowed to touch it. It was pristine. And when guests came over, all of those children had to be present in the room, sitting still, saying nothing, not fidgeting. Well, for Michelle's mom, that was torture. She was the middle child. Maybe there were 7, 3 above and 3 below, something along that line. Anywho, lots of kids. All of those hours of agony where, as she's hearing the adults talk, she has things she would want to add in. She wanted to participate. Wasn't allowed. Had to just sit there and listen. Torturous for this child. So then she gets to be a mother, and she has Michelle and Craig. Craig's older. And she made it okay for them to have their thoughts, to speak their thoughts respectfully, but to put their words out there, to ask questions, to want to know things, to respect others and be respected, even though they were children. And so this part here, she's basically lamenting how the whole world doesn't operate that way, and that there are many spaces where kids don't feel heard. So I'm going to give you 2 little parts here. The one of it is where she's disgruntled about something at school. Well, both of them actually are being disgruntled at school, but here's the one. On days when I came home stewing about something a teacher had done, and I'll admit this happened with some regularity, my mom would stand in the kitchen and listen to whatever tirade I had to unleash about the unfairness of some teacher's remark, or the stupidity of an assignment, or how Mrs. So-and-so clearly didn't know what she was doing. And when I was finished, when the steam of my anger had dissipated to the point that I could think clearly, anyone familiar with that? She'd ask a simple question, one that was fully sincere and also at the same time just a tiny bit leading. So this would be the kind of stuff that Sharon Ellison would kind of go, do you need me to go in there for you? In other words, do you need me to go talk to the teacher? And what she says is 99% of the time, I did not need her to go in on my behalf. Just by asking that question and giving me a chance to respond, she was subtly pushing me to continue reasoning out the situation in my head. Most of the time I would answer, I think I can handle it. And here's another one where just the perspective, I like this perspective of how her mother held space for her to be who she was. So inside our small home, she created a kind of emotional sandbox where Craig and I could safely rehearse our feelings and sort through our responses to whatever was going on in our young lives. She listened as we worked through our problems out loud, whether it was a math equation or a playground issue. Her advice when she gave it tended to be kind of a hard-boiled and practical variety. Most often it was a reminder to keep perspective and to think backward from the end result we were hoping for, to always stay focused on that. I love this part. This is the part I wanted to share with you. Once, when I was in high school and unhappy about having to deal with a math teacher who struck me as arrogant, my mom heard my complaint, nodded understandingly, and then shrugged. You don't have to like your teacher, and she doesn't have to like you, she said. But she's got math in her head that you need in yours, so maybe you should just go to school and get the math. She looked at me then and smiled, as if this should be the simplest thing in the world to grasp. You can come home and be liked, she said. We will always like you here. I love that. I love that. Can you imagine if all kids felt liked in their home? Wouldn't that be lovely? Not the judgment, the you got to be this way, or I'm raising you to do X, Y, or Z, but allowing us to be who we are, liking us for who we are, even when we're a pain in the ass, because we are when we're kids, right? We are when we're adults. Can we, and that I think is the secret to a successful marriage. On the front page of yesterday's paper here, there's a couple who's been married for 70 years. They're celebrating their 70th wedding anniversary. And he met her when he was in the army in Italy. He spoke fluent Italian. She didn't speak a word of English. She comes back here with him and has been here 70 years with him. And they were talking about what led to their marriage succeeding. And they talked about liking each other even when things were difficult, and allowing each other to go and have a life and do the things they love to do. They have a little vineyard here in Wisconsin, which is kind of a cool thing. But 70 years of liking each other, even when things aren't going well. Can you like somebody even when they're not being perfect, even when they're showing their shadow side? Can you still like them? Can you still like them? So, that is our card for today. Sacred breath and sound. Communication, life force. So how will you practice today? What will you do? Will you sing in the car when you're driving somewhere? What will you do? Good morning, Donnie. Glad you are here. What will you do to express that sacred breath and sound? Will you practice some deep breathing at every stoplight? Will you go sit in the park and just breathe for a while? Good morning, Mary. Glad you are here. I was running late today, so some of you are able to pop on live instead of having to wait and watch the replay. So, have an awesome day. Enjoy your sacred breath. Make some sound. Make some joyous sound. All right? We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are. Bye-bye.